Hello and welcome to episode 12 of the EyeTest FC Advantage Liverpool. Now you'll notice that it's only me today because Samarth is back home celebrating Diwali with his family. And on that note, happy Diwali to everyone celebrating. Cheers. So let's get right into it. Liverpool have a lead because both Arsenal and City have slipped up. Let's analyze them game by game. Arsenal with the lunchtime kickoff at St James's Park. Always been a difficult ground to play at under Arteta. What can you say? Let's start with the positives. Substitutions were made not too late this time at the 60th minute mark. That's probably where it ends. The positives. The Newcastle goal was very well taken. It seemed straight out of the training ground, like you couldn't really point fingers at anyone. The ball came in from the left. Timber was too busy man marking someone else. Saliba was man marking their right winger, and there was a gap between Gabriel and Saliba. Isaac went in, clear header from 7-8 yards out, 1-0 Newcastle. And the minute that goal went in, you could just feel that energy, that tension in the room, where it just felt like it would be another one of those days where Arsenal could play that game for, I don't know, 280 minutes, 270 minutes, and it would still be 1-0, probably 2-0, 3-0. That's alluding to lack of creativity. And it's so easy to point to Odegaard's absence and say, hey, Arsenal are not creative. And Arteta said something very interesting in his press conference, which is Arsenal cannot break that low block of 5 and 5. And let's break that apart a little bit. What would Odegaard bring to that game? A very creative pass at 0-0? Maybe one defense splitting line breaking pass to break that low defensive block of Newcastle? That's it. And now I call into question a little bit his tactics in the last few games. He's insistent on playing Trossard, Havertz, Saka, rotating them in that number 10, either having Havertz drift out wide, Trossard play up front, or Trossard play as a 10, Havertz play up front. And that seems to be Arsenal's answer to creative problems. But what else does Odegaard do? He gets into those half spaces really well. And Arsenal seem to be crying out for that this game. And you could see, or one can see, what Mikel Merino brings to Arsenal when Odegaard is playing. But when Odegaard is not playing, I don't think he really fits into that playing 11. Granted, it's been a couple of games. I'm not writing Merino off as a player. But what does he do better than Declan Rice in that defensive 8 that Arsenal play on the left? You could immediately see after the subs came on at the hour mark that when Partey plays as a 6 and Rice plays as an 8, he drove into the penalty box a couple of times. And Arsenal need that. And what I don't understand is why we focus so much on the creative aspect that Odegaard brings and not on driving into the box, not on finding those half spaces. Trossard doesn't do that. Howard certainly doesn't do that. And that gap is so clear to see. Now, I completely understand you can't replace a world-class player with another world-class player because he probably wouldn't sit on the bench waiting for Odegaard to be injured. But you need to find solutions around it. And That loss at St. James's Park little bit attributes to the lack of trust in Zinchenko or in Lewis Kelly. Now, I'm not saying Zinchenko was perfect when he came on. Far from it. He gave the ball a few times. But Zinchenko playing left back would have allowed Arsenal to play Partey and Rice as the two midfielders, bringing much more balance to that midfield. And that didn't happen. And looking back at how Arsenal approached this season, they didn't plan for an Odegaard injury. You can't plan for these kind of things. And looking at the amount Arteta has spent in 4 years with defensive players, with midfielders, compared to attacking players, the amount of money is night and day. And it's really disappointing that Arsenal's only attacking output of the window was Sterling on loan, which wasn't Arsenal's first choice, probably not Arsenal's 10th choice. But if you let a lot of these fringe players who Arteta doesn't trust go, you need to replace them with someone. Someone more than a Sterling. Someone who could come into a game like yesterday and make a difference. And Arsenal only have themselves to blame. Now, why they didn't spend money beats me, anyone's guess. But for Arsenal fans, the international break can't come fast enough. I hope that the game against Chelsea is quite tactical. And judging by how Chelsea have played, especially against Man United, against the big teams this season, I completely expect a Lavia versus Caicedo double pivot at Stamford Bridge next week, as they had against United. It's very impressive that Chelsea also controlled that game for large parts against United. And I'm sure they will against Arsenal. So I think Arsenal need to really find a way, of course, in the Champions League midweek, but also at Stamford Bridge. And then hope to find answers during the international break, because you can afford a blip like this once in the season, but moving forward, it's going to bite Arsenal if Arteta can't come up with answers quickly. Let's talk about the other team that's dropped points, Man City. Wow, Bournemouth are an amazing team. That's all I can say. They showed that against Arsenal last week. They showed that against City this week. Semenyo obviously grabbed all the headlines. He should have scored a couple more. Adam Smith had an open goal, which he missed. So that 2-1 scoreline was actually quite flattering to Man City. Pep said this in his post-match press conference that, they couldn't cope against Bournemouth. And that kind of ground, when, under the lights, smaller ground, it just feels that City aren't playing against 11 people, playing against thousands. Because the support was amazing that game. As I said, Semenyo played really well, but take nothing away from Kerkez. He's provided 2 amazing assists. Clivert was fabulous all game linking up play. Tavernier was quiet, didn't really grab the headlines, but also good. And Bournemouth are building a really solid team. Evan Nilsson, who was amazing at Porto last season. How does Iraola do it? And again, guys, this goes to show, if you trust a coach and you build with that coach, great things can happen. And Iraola has shown that. Sure, in the beginning he had a slow start, but these 2 weeks were arguably the best weeks in Bournemouth's Premier League existence. They've been playing some really attractive football, and City just didn't have answers. Their goal came from Guardiola, who headed that in. One would consider that scrappy, considering City's high standards. City obviously created a lot of chances, didn't have much to show for it. Their Bournemouth centre-backs were amazing as well all game. Haaland was quiet, had one chance in stoppage time, not really much else. Now let's talk about Liverpool, the team who actually took advantage of the slip ups. And I hope I do somewhat justice in my analysis of Liverpool. But what a game at Anfield. End to end game at Anfield. Brighton again impressing. Kadioglu with his first Premier League goal. Well taken goal with his right foot. What a versatile defender. Really good scouting by Brighton. Very impressive as well. Led the game for large periods. One would say that Liverpool kept attacking Brighton, who were very fluid for most parts of that game. But again, you see, you blink, open your eyes, and then 2 goals in 2 minutes. Really great performance by Darwin Nunez. I think his contribution for the first goal aside, uh, he's really a chance creating magnet, and with that profile, 6'3", 4", that pace, dream for any team to have. And I think he's improving this season. He's done really well. His just ducking down for the Hakpo cross to go into goal at that game state, very very commendable. I think his decision making is improving, and I think he was amazing. And of course, Brighton give the ball away, 2 quick passes. Uh, Salah goes 1-on-1 with Estupinian. He should have done better to hold off Salah because Salah is going to cut into his left foot. But man, what a finish. And just like that, from minute 70 to minute 71, Liverpool go 2-1 up and get a Premier League lead. A 2-point lead, granted, but nevertheless a lead. And credit to Liverpool for taking advantage of the slip ups by the teams around them. At one stage, it didn't look likely, but I think the crowd really helped them get going, and fair play. They are now leading the Premier League, and if Arne Slot can keep Liverpool in that position, keep all of these critical cogs in that team on form, who knows? Who knows what will happen? Of course, an injury to Konate is worrying, especially if it's long term. Let's see. It's a long season, and let's see how Liverpool play. Couple of EyeTest FC plays of the week, especially for the third Tottenham goal. Disastrous playing out from the back by Pau Torres. He came out, gave the ball to a Tottenham player, luckily got the ball back, again passed it straight to another Tottenham player. Tottenham went on and the ball was in the Villa net 8 seconds ago, and that really killed the game. Surprising to see Aston Villa capitulate like this. Have seen much better of them throughout. I think a 4-1 scoreline is not reflective of that. Really well taken goal by Maddison from that free kick. Really great goal scoring again from Brennan Johnson, who's again on fire this season. And fair play to Tottenham to convincingly win against a very good Premier League side. My goal of the week was actually from a game that was kind of over, right? I think Ola Aina for Nottingham Forest, the way he even said it in his post-match press conference, like he was knackered and he just shot the ball because he didn't have any energy. And man, what a goal outside of his boot, straight into the top corner, and game over. And Nottingham Forest are in the Champions League positions, and West Ham are shit. And at the beginning of the season, 9 out of 10 people would have predicted fortunes going the other way around. What else happened this week? Crystal Palace Wolves with a draw, Southampton with their first win against Everton, Ipswich drawing with Leicester City. And of course, I briefly mentioned this earlier, Man United drawing against Chelsea. A very good Chelsea team. Probably Van Nistelrooy's only game in charge. Nothing really to write home about. Chelsea dominated for better parts of that game. United were good in their own right, but they're still 13th in the league. Let's see how Chelsea fare. in the game next week, which everyone's going to be tuning into. Chelsea versus Arsenal at Stamford Bridge. Until next week, see you guys.